Welcome to the SOE Career Services webinar. This is part 2 of the Teacher Job Search Bootcamp series, Finding the Perfect Job. My name is Laura Mayers, and I am a career advisor at SOE, and I will be the presenter for this session. We also have SOE Associate Director of Student Affairs and Career Services, Shamil Orr, online, who will serve as the moderator. She will be assisting with collecting and answering your questions. You should know this presentation is approximately 1 hour and will be recorded and posted in the SOE Career Services System, EdWorks, within a few weeks. We will also post the presentation slides at that time, so you have access to all of the links that I will reference. Now let's get started. So our Teacher Job Search Bootcamp Part 1 presentation we did last month, that one was called Prepping for the Search. That highlighted things you should be doing prior to applying for jobs. And today's session will focus on what you should do once you're ready to start looking for and applying to teaching jobs. After this session, you will be able to know the steps involved in how to begin your search, identify what your job search timeline will be based on when jobs are typically posted. We will go over where to find the postings. And for those of you interested in teaching outside of Michigan, I'll touch briefly on the process of obtaining out-of-state certification and where you can go to get additional information. I especially want to emphasize that there is not one perfect strategy to find and apply to teaching positions. Oftentimes, it's a combination of strategies, and especially given the pandemic and other issues going on in our country and world right now, things in general can be hard to navigate. If you become overwhelmed or confused on what your next step is, please schedule a career advising appointment with Shamil or myself. We are happy to help. So now we're going to get into the first steps you should take when you're beginning the search. Knowing how you should begin really depends on where you want to end up. The ultimate goal for a job search is two parts. Land the job, obviously, but secondly, obtain a job that makes you fulfilled. And that's what we mean when we talk about job fit. Is the position, the school, curriculum, leadership, oversight the right fit for you? This sounds like common sense, but job fit can often be neglected. So no matter how many jobs you apply to, interviews or offers you get, if you don't end up in a school environment that aligns with what is important to you, then it's going to be very hard to grow and thrive in the ways you want to as an educator. So this is all to say that before you start down the rabbit hole of searching for teaching jobs, you need to reflect a lot about what your interests, values, and skills are as an educator. Based on those, you then develop a plan that can guide you through the process. For interests and values, ask yourself what's important to you personally and professionally. What energizes you as a person, as an educator? What do you want to learn more about? What type of place do you want to live? What people do you want to surround yourself with? What life philosophy drives you? Big picture, what do you want to accomplish by being a teacher? For identifying your skills as an educator, you can ask yourself, what are you good at? What unique qualities do you bring to teaching, and how can you contribute to a school? During your student teaching placements, take note of the things that your mentor teacher, field instructor, and your peers say you do well. Once you've identified what your values, interests, and skills are, You can then make a plan or strategy of how you will assess whether or not a school or district will be the right fit for you. Whether it's a list that you keep readily available of your must haves and can live without, or having a detailed Excel spreadsheet where you track different aspects that are important to you, having some kind of document that you can reference is very helpful as you research schools that you want to apply to. We also encourage you to create some kind of system where you can track what jobs you have applied to, when, and any communications you've had with the people at the school. Airtable is a free online tool that is a cross between Excel and a easy to use database. And it allows you to build interactive mini spreadsheet databases. The Career Services team uses it daily, so we can attest to how handy it is. This is completely optional, but we did create an Airtable template that you can use to help organize the schools you're researching, and that template can be found in the EdWorks document library under the tag job search. We'll reference that EdWorks and the document library many times throughout this presentation. And just so you know, it's completely okay if you're not sure what your interests are at this point or what your mission statement is as an educator. These are just important things to start to reflect on now and have a goal of trying to verbalize by the time you start applying for jobs. Also, understand that what is important to you in the job search might shift as you go. Certain aspects of your life or your priorities might change, and that's okay. Especially as we navigate this pandemic, we need to give ourselves some additional compassion as we navigate this job search. If something does deviate from your original plan, it's important to pause, revisit your guiding interests and values, and then tweak them if needed. Once you've determined what is important to you in your job search, you'll be better equipped to identify your timeline of when the postings you are interested in will be posted. Unfortunately, there is no set time when all K-12 postings will be up, but there are some general time frames to keep in mind. When jobs are posted typically has a lot to do with the geographic location and the type of school. Although with COVID-19 cases rising exponentially in the US, this will also be a key factor to take into account of when schools will be able to post positions. Typically, those seeking to teach outside the US have the earliest job search timeline, as international schools tend to hire in late fall, which would be now, through the winter and wrap up in early spring. Again, with the US leading the world in COVID cases, it is very likely that countries will restrict the entry of those coming from the US between now and this coming fall. If you are interested in teaching abroad, we encourage you to start looking into possible locations and schools now and routinely check on travel and visa restrictions. We'll go over specific resources a little later in the presentation. Other states, not including Michigan, typically start posting positions in late winter or early spring and wrap up in late summer. Michigan is notoriously late in terms of when their peak posting time is, which usually falls late July and throughout August. That being said, teaching jobs in the past could start to pop up in Michigan as early as March. And we all hope that the pandemic will be more under control come the spring and summer, but we just won't know what the situation is until then. As a frame of reference, this past spring, with the onset of COVID cases in the US, we did consistently see teaching positions being posted nationwide. but we did see a big delay in postings in Michigan. This was largely due to the fact that school districts had to scramble to deal with, the onset of the pandemic and to finish out that school year. And then they spent the majority of the summer deciding their instructional plans for fall, if they were going to be in person, virtual, or hybrid. So once schools made that decision about their fall plans, they were then able to turn their focus to hiring, thus the delay that we saw. The postings seemed to peak in Michigan around mid-August, a couple months ago. And the difference that we are really seeing now is that we have continued to receive job postings for the current school year, even through the fall as we speak. So our recommendation for preparation hasn't changed, though. Whether you're interested in Michigan or other states, it is a great idea to have your application materials ready to go, especially your resume, by January or February, just in case your ideal school posts an opening earlier than expected. And another note, charter, private, and independent schools are more likely to hire earlier compared to public schools, and they may accept applications year-round. So I am going to pause and check our Q&A here to see if any questions came up. So it looks like we don't have any at the moment. I'm going to wait one more second just to see if any come in now, and then we'll move on. Okay, great. So a question popped up. What application materials do we need other than a resume? So this is definitely, we went into a lot more detail around that in our last job search bootcamp session, prepping for the search. So definitely go back and review that. But the very common application materials are going to consist of a tailored cover letter, the resume. It's going to entail references and letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are kind of unique to the teaching profession. So on other job searches, you might be familiar with references, where you provide contact information for typically 3 people that can really speak to your experiences as a teacher. Letters of recommendation can be those same people, your references, but you're asking them to actually write a letter that they hand into you, so you see it and you keep, and then you upload to your different applications. So those really are the kind of key application materials, but definitely refer back to that last session for more details. And then another question came up around the Airtable template for tracking your job search. So it is kind of like a Google Doc. They asked if it was similar in that way, and it is. And so you can create your own free Airtable account, and then we shared the link to that template, so you can basically get to that template, make a copy, and then make it your own. So you can tweak it and edit it how you want to, very similarly to a Google Doc. Okay, so I think I'm going to move us along here, but keep sending in your questions, because we'll definitely have more times where we'll break to answer those. Okay. Now we're going to talk about where to find the teacher job postings. So the quick answer is K-12 job postings are everywhere. It's really up to the district, network, school, where they decide to post, and they might post in more than one location. But we're going to pick this apart a little bit more so you know the specific places you can check. So the big one here is any postings that we receive directly from employers or alumni that want to share openings at their school, those will be posted in our career services system, EdWorks. This system is only for students and alumni of the School of Education. In addition, if our team comes across opportunities we think would be of interest to interns, we will post them in EdWorks. And then I'll go over more details about EdWorks in a couple of slides. Another place to check is the University Career Center system, Handshake. This system has postings across all industries, but there are school districts that have been accustomed to posting in Handshake before EdWorks was created. So it's a good idea to cover all of your bases. Like EdWorks, you use your U of M credentials to log in. Schools and districts will often have a primary place they post all of their positions, whether that be directly on their school website or on an external posting board. In addition to posting jobs online, schools and districts are also likely to host or participate in job fairs to hire teachers in other roles. I'll go into a little more detail about some key fairs to consider attending in a few minutes. So for some specific job posting boards that you should check out, we created a K-12 job posting websites handout in EdWorks in the document library, and that will go into more details and those links to those different places. So definitely check those out. Something that is unique to Michigan is that the majority of public schools in the state will post their openings to a job board, typically shared with other districts in their area or county. They call these job boards consortiums. For example, all public school districts in Washtenaw County will post their openings on the Washtenaw Area Schools Consortium site. So if you have a specific Michigan school district in mind, it's best to bookmark their consortium posting page and check that regularly. Direct links to the different consortiums in the state are listed on the K-12 job posting website's handout that I just referenced in EdWorks. In terms of looking outside of Michigan, you can use the SOE State Certification Requirements drop-down tool on the SOE website, and I will go into more information about that in a moment. For international teaching positions, schools hire directly or may use a hiring agency that you must apply through. We recommend you check out the resources we have developed specifically for the international teaching job search in the EdWorks document library, as well as the newly created International Teaching Pathway in EdWorks, which is a self-guided checklist and that will take you through the different steps in that particular job search. One key piece of advice about finding job postings is that if you're not sure where a specific district or school posts, your best bet is to go to their website, the district website, and find their human resources, or they might call it employment or jobs page, and they will direct you to that central place that they post. So as you probably know by now, through our constant references, EdWorks is going to be an invaluable resource to you during your job search. We created the system a few years ago to be specifically tailored to SOE students and alumni. You can access the link to EdWorks on the SOE website, on the Career Services webpage, and in the SOE career newsletter we send out weekly on Fridays. Once you click that link, you will be taken to this page, and you'll just want to click on the web login for current students, that icon that's circled there. From there, you'll be able to log in using your UMich credentials. You will also retain access to Edworks once you become an alum. I believe for the Career Center's system handshake, you will have access to that up to, I want to say, 18 months after graduation. But our access is ongoing for alumni. Edworks contains education-related job postings, which includes K-12 teaching and administration postings, as well as non-classroom opportunities, but they are all education-related. Postings include Michigan, out-of-state, and international positions. Please be aware that the listing of job postings we feature in the weekly career newsletter is only a sampling of the jobs that are being posted in Edworks. Many of you may have already explored Edworks through completing the Introduction to Career Services pathway that can be found under Resources and then Pathways from your menu bar in Edworks. We recommend any teacher education students that have not completed this to do so, just because it helps point you in the direction of all these great resources. But here are some important ways you can get the most out of Edworks. Complete your Edworks profile, especially the career interest section on the academic/career profile, as this helps us populate the system with job postings that you want to see. All of our handouts that we're referencing, our event recordings, you're going to find those under resources in the document library. Once you've completed your profile, you can view job postings by clicking on jobs at the top in the menu bar, then click search. An incredibly useful feature is that you can save your customized searches and then opt in to receive automated emails when new jobs are posted, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. You can also upload your resume for review. Please note that you need to have an approved resume in the system in order to be eligible to apply to postings that require you to apply through Edworks or to participate in a resume book collection. I will say, though, that the vast majority of K-12 teacher postings in Edworks are going to direct you to an external site where you apply through their application. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to create that email alert. I'm going to pull up, log into Edworks, and then reshare my screen here. Okay. So once you are logged into Edworks, you're going to see that menu bar along the left here. You're going to click on Jobs at the top, and then this first option right below, Search, click on that. And the first thing you want to do is use these different categories to customize your search. And for teachers, the best way to find the postings that are going to be related to your specific content area is to click on job function, and then you can see all the different types of possible categories of jobs that we post, but the ones that are especially relevant to teachers are going to be everything that starts with K-12. So you could type that in here into the search to just bring up those, but you're going to see things are separated out by school level, so elementary, There's middle school and there's high school if you want to look overarchingly across those levels. Or if you want to search your specific content area, you can do that as well, like math or social studies includes all history, political science, social studies postings, world language for our language teachers and so on. So let's say I'm a elementary intern, I'm going to click on the checkbox next to elementary, and then I got to click this apply button, and that's going to pull up the search. So I have 17 results. So that means there's currently 17 active job postings for elementary positions in the system. And then to save that search, I'm going to go over here on the right. I'm going to click create job alert. Great, tells me that it did it. And then it's going to be saved here in my job alerts. So I got to click on job alerts to bring it up. And see, you can create as many different customized searches as you want. And the nice thing is it'll tell you what your search criteria was right below it. So you know, okay, this was all my elementary positions. And then here's where you set that email. You can set it to get a daily, weekly, and then if you ever decide you don't want to receive emails anymore, you can just select never. And that way you just won't get those email notifications. And that's it. So that's how you create a customized search, set up those notifications. I'm going to reshare my screen here, get us back. Okay. So going back to what I was talking about with the job fairs, job fairs can be a way that a school district hires teachers. U of M has hosted an annual in-person education job fair for decades, and this fair is made up of K-12 Michigan and out-of-state schools. With the pandemic, U of M has partnered with other colleges in the state to host a joint virtual job fair this March that will take place on the 16th for elementary and K-12 educators like music teachers, and on the 17th for secondary teachers and administrators. We completely understand interns may have class during some portion of the fair. The dates and times were, settled on by many different universities, but we do encourage you to attend when you are able, as we believe this is going to be a drop-in event that will be open until at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We are still waiting on more details about the structure of the event, and once those are solidified, we will enter them in EdWorks. We also plan to have a job fair prep webinar next semester in the winter term to help you all prepare. As a result of the pandemic as well, we noticed an influx of virtual teacher job fairs last spring, and it's likely this will continue to happen over the course of the spring and summer. So keep a lookout for those. For example, the Michigan Department of Education is coordinating a statewide teacher job fair earlier in March, as well as doing another one in June. It's also a good idea to check the human resources page on a school district's website to see if they have any recruiting events they will be hosting or participating in. Sometimes larger districts that have a lot of openings or districts that are in need to fill positions urgently will host their own fair. To find teacher job fairs in states outside of Michigan, you can check on that state's Department of Education website, which you can locate using the SOE State Certification Requirements tool. And for those interested in international teaching, the University of Northern Iowa, who usually hosts an annual in-person job fair, is offering recruitment services to teachers seeking jobs abroad in fall 2021. This service is free if you sign up by November 30th. So we encourage everyone, even if you're just slightly interested in teaching internationally, to sign up for the services by the early bird registration deadline to take advantage of the fee waiver. Just so you know, if you do sign up for the services, you and I will request a letter of good standing that we, the career services team, will complete on your behalf. We just need you to complete the request form in order for our office to create and submit the letter. We ask that you submit this request by the latest Friday, November 20th, if you intend to register by that November 30th early bird deadline. And then a key thing to remember here is that any hiring events, any employer hosted events that are shared with us or that we come across, we will post those in EdWorks, and you can find those particular events under recruiting events. And that's different from presentations such as this, our regular workshops, where we will post in EdWorks under workshops. Now shifting into the application process, and then we will definitely pause to answer some of the questions that came in. Several Michigan and out-of-state districts use an application system called Frontline, or sometimes it's referred to as AppleTrack. I believe AppleTrack used to be the name, and then they kind of shift in recent years to Frontline. Each district's frontline system is separate, so you need to create a new account for each consortium. You can import some of your frontline information between the different districts. Make sure, though, you keep a copy of your responses on a separate document, since you'll likely need to re-enter it multiple times for your different applications. If you're applying to a specific school, in addition to submitting your application, you can also send an email with your tailored cover letter and resume to the principal. This is just an optional thing you can do to get your name in front of them, as they will be involved in the hiring process. Hiring processes are very individualized across districts and can even vary among schools in the same district. That's why if you are unsure about a question on an application, how they worded something, how you need to submit something, you should contact that district's human resources office. We found many instances where there have been vague instructions and they wanted you to do something, but it just was not clear that that was their intention. So it's always good to double check. We've also developed a handout in EdWorks called Frontline Employment Application Instructions. That's in the document library, and that will tell you how to answer a lot of these common questions that you might come across in these AppleTrack applications. Okay, so I know that was a lot of content. We're going to pause here for some questions. I'm going to pull them up. So the first question was, how do we start looking for school districts that fit us well? Where can we find more information about schools to find out how they align with our needs, values, and strengths? And so this is a really great question. And I think, what's helpful to begin with is first identifying, as you know now, right? You're throughout the progress in your program, you're gonna get a more crystallized view of like what's important to you as you complete your student teaching experiences. But starting a list of just a simple, this is what I must have in a teaching position, and these are things that I am flexible on. Having that, and it could be anything from I want it to be in a certain type of location, rural, urban, suburban. I want to have a lot of diversity represented in the student body, in the teachers. That could be something. I want to work in a school that has like some kind of alternative setup where maybe it's focused on STEM or STEAM with the arts. So I think, first it's good to write down as a person, what are the things that are really going to make you thrive in your teaching position? And we can definitely tease that out in a one-on-one career advising appointment. Everyone's different, everyone's unique, everyone's going to be looking for something different as a teacher. And so it can be really helpful just to talk to Shamil or myself to kind of figure out that piece. And then from there, we can then give you advice about, oh, we know some alumni that teach in those types of schools, or this is where you can, find alumni to connect with. Or if you know that you are going to be focused on this geographic area, these are the job posting sites that you should be looking at. And these are the districts that exist in that area. So I hope that was helpful, but yes, please schedule an appointment. We're happy to kind of dig in deeper with that. So it looks like that was our only question for right now. So I'm going to move ahead, but we will definitely have another opportunity to answer questions. Okay. The last topic we wanted to touch on is out-of-state certification, as this comes up a lot with interns who are interested in not staying in Michigan to teach, but going elsewhere. So if you're going to be applying to teaching positions out of state or are just interested, you will also need to apply to obtain certification in that state. It depends on the state in terms of how they want you to apply, what materials you will need to submit, and what additional requirements they may ask you to complete either prior to teaching in their state or after obtaining a temporary license. You can use this interactive drop-down tool that we created that's on the SOE website. This is what I mentioned before, the state certification requirements tool, to help you navigate to a specific state certification application process located on that state's Department of Education website. So we've basically made it, or tried to make it really easy where you can, go here and select your state from the drop down, and then these blue links below will refresh to links that are specific to that state Departments of Education. And the one in particular you're going to want to use is this out-of-state certification information link. So click on that, and that should take you to the very specific page on that Department of Ed website that's going to tell you what you need to do in order to apply for certification. Now, please, this was created by us. We rely on all of you to let us know if there are broken links. And so please let us know so we can fix those as soon as possible, because these other states tend to change around their websites from time to time. We also created the out-of-state teacher certification planning guide handout, and that will give you a really great overview of the out-of-state certification process, and give you examples of things that you likely might need to submit in that process. It's important to note, though, that this process of applying for certification in another state, that is separate from you applying to jobs in that state. You shouldn't let the fact that you don't have a certificate in hand in, let's say, New York, to apply to New York teaching jobs. We find a lot of interns will usually wait to start the certification process until they're pretty sure they know they're going to that state, just because it's time, it's energy, It's additional cost. So even though you could technically apply to all of the states or as many as you wanted to, really we find that interns will just apply for certification in one additional state, but maybe they might keep their options open by applying to jobs, in many different states and just see kind of what happens and then decide maybe to pursue the certification there. As part of your certification application, most states will ask that we, Career Services, complete a program verification letter on your behalf. If you need this document, please use the request form link that's found right below, the state certification requirements drop down. And a good thing to note with those request forms, know that we can't complete those forms until you've actually officially, finish your program requirements. And so the earliest that, you can really, I would say you should send us those requests is probably maybe the beginning of June if you are finishing your program, for undergraduates. If you're finishing on the regular track in like May, you'll get certification in June. And for LMACers and secondary Macers as well, you'll get your certification in June as long as you're all on track. So yeah, it's helpful just to start sending in those requests beginning of June, and we'll get right on those once we can. Okay, that was a lot of information to go over. So we're just going to do a quick recap so that you kind of know what are the key things that you should be looking into right now and having on your radar in the coming weeks. So in part 1 of our teacher job search bootcamp presentation, the one, prepping for the search, Shamil went over the types of application materials you'll likely need to prepare, as well as tips and resources to help you with networking and leveraging social media to support your job search. If you couldn't attend the webinar, no worries. The recording and the PowerPoint slides are posted in the Edworks document library, again, under the tag job search. We encourage you to keep your resume updated, to make connections with schools and educators, and to start researching schools and districts that may align with your job search goals. If you're interested in teaching in other states, make sure you're looking into what the certification requirements will be. And if you are interested in teaching internationally, remember that those openings will post much sooner. We can even, help with that process, looking at those now and remembering to, register for that UNI services before the 30th. Another great resource that will be very helpful for interns seeking a K-12 teaching position for fall 2021 is the AAEE, which stands for American Association for Employment and Education, their 2021 Job Search Handbook for Educators. Now, we usually distribute these hard copy, but to make sure things are more accessible during this time, we have an electronic PDF version that we put in the Edworks document library. So this handbook, it contains a collection of advice, worksheets, templates, and tips for teachers on the job search. And all of these different articles or posts, they were written by K-12 school district recruiters and university career advisors. So there is a plethora of incredibly helpful information contained in this book. We hope, you all reference it, but we also want to give the caveat that the views expressed in the book are of each individual contributor. So as you progress in your job search, you are going to find that you're probably going to be inundated with advice from many different sources. You have us, you have this book, you have faculty, you have mentor teachers, field instructors. please take everything with a grain of salt. And at the end of the day, make sure you're making decisions that you are comfortable with and are in line with your goals and values. And when in doubt, please don't hesitate to reach out to Shamil or I if you're unsure about something in the job search process. So with that, we're going to take a couple minutes here to answer any remaining questions. So we have one. So can we start applying to out-of-state jobs even though our certification in that state might not be finalized until June? Yes, the answer is absolutely. So just because, even if you haven't even started that certification process, like you haven't, submitted the application, you can still absolutely apply to jobs, because as a new teacher, right, you are all going to be newly graduated from a teacher preparation program. They understand these things are in progress. You're not going to have even your Michigan teaching certificate in hand when jobs are going to start to be posted. So yes, please, that's why it's so important to be on top of that resume. And so that if a job pops up, even in Michigan in February, you're able to get on that job application and get your things in. But yes, absolutely, for states outside of Michigan, please, if you see postings at any time, definitely submit those applications. And then let's see, if we apply out of state, we still take the Michigan State test to receive our certification and meet program requirements, correct? And so, yes, most states will require that you have a valid teaching certificate in another state that you are essentially showing them, saying, I completed, a teacher preparation program, I'm licensed, here you go, in order to get, that state's license. Although there are some exceptions, we do come across some states that actually might not require that your Michigan certificate be valid. So maybe they will just accept that you completed the program requirements and didn't take your MTTC test. But we just want to warn you, because we have had bad situations in the past where, an intern might say, I'm from Illinois. I know I'm going straight back to Illinois. I'm going to teach in Illinois forever. I don't need the Michigan teaching certificate. So can I just skip that because, Illinois is telling me they don't need it? And so what we would say is just get it. Just get your Michigan certificate, because something might happen where, like, a year out, that same alum might come back and be like, you know what, things changed. I do need my Michigan teaching certificate. I'm coming back. Or it's easier to transfer over to a different state. So can I please just pay my fee and get it? The problem is that you will be held to the certification requirements at that current moment in time. So if the Michigan Department of Education has made changes in what you need as a, English teacher, you would need to complete those additional requirements, meaning additional classes. So that has happened to alums in the past. So we just say, just try to avoid that and just try to get your Michigan teaching certificate by, taking your necessary tests. But we're always here to talk one-on-one about that, depending on your situation. Okay. So I think that was it for questions. If any of you think of additional questions or know peers that weren't able to make it today that they have questions, again, our presentation is going to be posted in EdWorks in the next, definitely within the next couple of weeks, as well as the slides. So if there's questions that result from that, definitely send us an email or schedule a one-on-one appointment. And that's it. Thank you all again for for attending this session, and keep a lookout for the third and final part of the Teacher Job Search Bootcamp series, Acing the Interview. We're going to be doing that session after the start of the winter term, and that will discuss everything you need to know about interviewing for a teaching position. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.